Welcome to Season 7 of Be a Baller, the podcast where success isn't the goal, legacy is. This season is all about intentional living, leading with purpose, serving with faith, and leaving a mark that outlives us. We go beyond the highlights, bringing you real conversations with legacy builders from ministry, business, sports, education, and community. Leaders committed to the Wisdom Pledge, paying it forward to the next generation. If you're ready for faith-filled leadership and practical wisdom to live on purpose and finish strong, let's be a baller, legacy style.
Welcome to Be a Baller podcast. I'm your host, Coach Tim Brown, and today we'll be talking about what it really means to prosper. And I'm blessed to have with me Matt Gerhardt, who's the 30-year banking professional and relationship manager at First Merchant Bank. And I was telling Matt, we got to be on our toes because our boss is here, Jennifer Griffith, who's the regional vice president, First Merchants Bank. And so we got to really be on top of our game today, Matt. And our conversation will basically be about sitting on business lending, community leadership, and long-term relationships, all aligned with the mission of helping you prosper. This podcast today is brought to you by First Merchant Bank, which is dedicated to helping you prosper and supporting leaders who grow their businesses. So both Matt and Jennifer, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
This is
Again, this is great.
You know, Matt, for you first, Matt, you take us back to Circleville. You know, what early influences shape your work ethic and approach to leadership?
So, the circle that I grew up with, and I'm 57, so we're talking about the 1970s.
Oh, you're young, man. Come on.
Yeah, that's all relative, Tim. It was actually back in the day a pretty vibrant town. You know, we had a number of industries there. There were a lot of blue-collar positions, jobs where you could earn a living wage. There were a lot of white-collar jobs. You know, the class that I was in, I graduated in 1987. We had a fairly successful group of kids graduated. A number of engineers came from my class. We had a gentleman who went to West Point. I don't recall how long he was in the Army, but it was quite a while. I think he actually flew helicopters. It was a pretty good class. You know, it's interesting that, all these kids, I mean, it was a pretty good set of teachers as well. So there were a number of teachers that, I would consider outstanding. One, unfortunately, has passed. He was my English teacher, and his name was Tom Parker, and he was quite the character. But you have a teacher that's that passionate about teaching, and, how do you think on your own, both strategically and, really kind of understanding messages. I specifically remember that he read aloud Animal Farm by George Orwell.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, quite frankly, I take things a little bit more literally than I think most do, but kind of understanding that really was kind of an eye-opener for me. So, and as far as, influences and leadership, there's a number of people that I grew up and knew, and my parents were longtime residents of Circleville. My family immigrated to the area in the late 1800s. They were farmers, and then we've had a succession of attorneys. But my uncle kind of comes to mind, and he's an interesting guy. If you knew him as an attorney, you would think he was pretty gruff, and rightfully so. I think that's maybe part of the job. But he really does care for the community. He's involved with the local historical society. A number of years ago, he was the mayor. He's been the district attorney, but he's been very involved in not-for-profit work. He and my aunt and I, we actually started a scholarship fund for Circleville High seniors that are going to college. So we've been doing that for over 20 years, and we've poured a fair amount of money into it to support it and to try and help these kids. And, the Circleville of my youth, it was a very safe place. I'm lucky for that. I think that can be a little dangerous in that, what I experienced as a kid and, my path to, it was always expected that I was going to go to college. I think that in and of itself is a little bit different than the experiences of probably the majority, certainly a lot of kids within Columbus proper. As I've gotten older and I kind of think about this stuff, and I think about what I want to do from a serving not-for-profits, that it's important to me.
Jennifer, we have you on here and Matt as well. But this next question is, First Merchant Bank uses this phrase, helping you prosper. From your perspective, what does prosperity truly mean?
It's a fantastic question. And I do hope all of my teammates have an answer for you. When I think about prosperity, it is such a broad term and it's a journey. We're helping you prosper without an end because tomorrow is always right around the corner and there's always something else to tackle that can lift you up. And while we are banks, and so we think about financial prosperity, that's certain, but we have to have a healthy community and we have to have a healthy family and we need to have opportunities and rewards and elevation. And when I think about prosperity, it is not isolated to the dollars and cents. The prosperity is a state of mind. It's a state of mind that there's hope and opportunity and a reason to get up tomorrow. And when I think about the lifting of the communities, all of our clients and all of our teammates around us prospering because First Merchants is emanating good work.
Matt, from your perspective, being the relationship manager, how does that thing play into your work, to your role?
Yeah, another good question. So, yeah, I think what, is obviously very important to me is, we're working with companies. We're working on them for financial planning, for succession planning. How do we help the business become more profitable, grow sales, whatever the case may be. But, ultimately what it comes down to is when we have these banking relationships, we are helping individuals, but we're helping the companies that then employ folks. And, when you kind of look at the whole picture, if a company is thriving and is doing well, then that means that they're going to reinvest in their company, which typically means job growth. So, kind of putting all those things together and really paying attention to what makes the most sense from a banking relationship standpoint, it does help a broader array of people. And we maybe don't think about that initially. As a whole, I think it's very important. And it's certainly something I think that this bank really pays attention to, is that there is a benefit kind of further on down the line from the management or ownership structure.
Jennifer, we live in this growing market of Central Ohio, and I know First Merchant Bank has made a commitment to that Northland area.
Yes.
Can you talk about that? First off, the reason why, and then what have you seen there that gets you guys excited about what's happening in that area?
Fantastic. So we selected Morris Road, an opportunity to expand our footprint and to enter a new neighborhood and work our hearts out to earn the trust and respect of the neighborhood and of the business owners that are up there. And when we took a look at opportunities that we felt might have been underserved by the banking industry, this one stuck out. It also is an incredibly large geography. And so the Northland community spans a large footprint. And inside that, they've organized with some great leadership inside the Northland Area Business Association, a remarkable not-for-profit known as Elevate Northland. There is the NCC, the Northland Community Council. And so you've got all of these leaders that are trying to dig in and work hard and push it. And with a little bit of financial sponsorship, we really might make a difference. So we knew that partnerships mattered. We knew that there were roots in the ground for really great organizations and agencies that cared about it. And we knew that we'd find partnerships. We can't do it alone. Never tried to do it alone. Got to have the partners to pull it off. And we found the partners in Northland to be incredibly valuable.
Awesome. Matt, you've been the relationship manager. That's a diverse community that you're serving. How have you been able to build relationships in business and banking to be successful?
Yeah, and I know Jennifer has heard this from me before, but you like to do business with friends. And, maybe it's a new friend, somebody you've never met, but if you can kind of establish that connection, and that friendship and kind of have a common goal, I've found that the most successful relationships that I've worked on have the best communication. If you want to call me on the weekend, if you want to call me at night, well, if you call me after 9, I'm going to be asleep because I go to bed early. I get up early. Those are the kind of relationships that I really value, is that somebody trusts that I always have their best interests at heart and they want to work with us. They enjoy the friendship. I can kid with them. Jennifer knows this all too well. I like to tell a lot of jokes. So I really like to get to know people, and there are some inside jokes, and it's fun. When you get up in the morning and you look forward to going to work, that's successful.
Yeah, I like that. Doing business with friends. As you know, in the world, we sometimes talk about don't do business with family.
That,
That's what we
a bad
say in the
idea.
world. That's what we say
yeah,
in the world.
it resonates a lot, as we were just talking about Morse Road. Because when we showed up, we had to go on our listening tour first to go find the people that were like-minded. What would our network look like? In Matt's words, what might our friend group look like? And we really had to lean hard in a listening tour to get the points of view from the audience that we wanted to serve at Mental World.
For both of you, there may be there are some young professionals listening, some young entrepreneurs. What financial principles should they master early?
Listen to the people who have that kind of experience. I mean, I think if you listen to somebody who has been a veteran in your industry or, within your network and really take to heart those lessons, I think that goes a long way. I mean, everybody, I think, has to have their own path. And, my experience with young entrepreneurs is they typically are very good at one thing. They might be really good at sales. They might be really good at the finance piece. They might be really good at making something, but you need a lot of different skills to be able to run a business. So having those outside advisors, having a mentor, working with a good banker, with a good attorney, with a good accountant, all very important.
I go a little more elementary and say, save 20% of everything you touched. Become a ridiculous saver. Make saving one of the first choices you make, and you're never too young to start there. Take 20% off the top of everything that runs through your hands and save it.
As we think about relationship building, how important is relationship building in banking and business success? How important is that? We've been talking about it, but let's share with the audience. I got some bankers here. Let's share with the audience on why that is so important. To know your banker, to know your bank.
I would say that's paramount, because if you have good communication, between the two different parties, I mean, good things happen or bad things happen to good people, and can't help somebody if they don't let you in, if something is going wrong. Just kind of having that dialogue, that discussion, that support network to talk through things, whether it's a good situation or a bad. But yeah, that's really, really important, because then you understand what's going on in the business and you can provide help.
I also think that I was taught really young, in my career anyway, that money is an emotional tool. And so it can create really ugly experiences, whether that's whatever that is. Money is an emotional resource. And so having to trust someone with something that you might feel so emotional about will help you push through the moments when you need to get help and advice. Otherwise, if you're living on the bell curve and you're living through algorithms and you're living through data points and you try to sterilize your relationship, you're forgetting one of those really elementary thoughts, that you're emotionally tied to your money. Whether you like it or you hate it, whether you love it or you want it, whatever it is you're looking at, you have a feeling connected to your money. And that in and of itself suggests that a relationship matters, and you don't want to be treated like a data point.
That's good. That's a good word. That's a good word. I know both of you are committed to the community and serve on several boards throughout the community. Why is community involvement important for business leaders? Can you speak to some of these businesses? Why is it so important for community leaders to be on nonprofit boards or just boards?
One of the first things that comes to mind is being present to hear what the community needs. And so typically through board work, They are mission-driven organizations that are looking to fill a gap. And it's a great way to gain a point of view around what are the gaps that we want to lean into.
Absolutely agree with that. And it's interesting. I don't know that I've had a lot of mentors, but for not-for-profit, I mean, it's been a part of my life for the last 30 years. And a person I would consider my mentor when it came to not-for-profits, she broke it down into three areas. You have family, you have work, and you have your not-for-profit work. And your not-for-profit work is the one that makes you feel good. So there's kind of a fundamental piece of it that, you're lending your time, you're lending your talents, you're lending, financial resources, your network. It's good work. I mean, if you really believe in what that organization is doing, it makes you feel good too. It makes you feel like you're contributing. And different not-for-profits that I've worked at, I learn a lot. I learn about people with, different backgrounds, different situations. Some are very life-threatening. I've worked with a women's crisis center, and then working the last two boards that I've been on have been with organizations that really help kids and, provide them with a safe place to go and really kind of stress the education piece and how that can help you better your situation. That makes me feel pretty good. I mean, I guess it's a little selfish in a regard, but it's fun. And I get a lot of happy feelings about it.
Tim, you and I have talked in the past about servant leadership.
Mhm.
And I love that the team of bankers I get to lead in Columbus, Ohio, want to be servant leaders. And the joy that Matt just described, what he finds that fills his bucket when he knows he's out serving the community. While you called it selfish, but finding joy is not selfish, but finding joy through servant leadership it's a gift. It's a gift we all should have.
This question is for both of you all. In your opinion, how can financial institutions help strengthen families and communities long term? And I know you're in this deal for the long term in the Northland areas, not just we're going to be here today, a couple of years we're out. So how can financial institutions help strengthen families and communities long term?
It's the investment. It's not a product. So our products turn over all the time. Like the checking accounts we were selling in the 70s are not the checking accounts we're selling today. The overdraft policies of the 80s are not the overdraft policies of today, right? Forget
Thank
it.
you for the overdraft. Thank you.
No. And so it's investment, and it's the investment in the family. And so once you understand those goals, does the family want to own a home? Does the family want to travel abroad? Does the family dream of college for their children? Does the family need a new car? Whatever that is, we need to talk about it. We need to plan for it for the long term. In general, we guide about 50% of your income should cover your living. About 30% of it should be put aside for joy. And about 20% of it should be knocked away for savings. And in general, that gets you a model, but that model is not one size fits all. So you got to invest in that family. And then in the communities, there needs to be, we are responsible to return some of our assets to the community. It has to be a reciprocal relationship. We can't just take and not provide. There has to be contribution. There has to be donation. There has to be sponsorship. There has to be allyship. There's got to be a reciprocal relationship. And so we do that in a ton of different ways, whether those are volunteer hours or direct dollars contributed to the community. But we measure that every single year. We measure every volunteer hour and every dollar invested.
As we're kind of coming around the corner, let's talk about this new trend in schools, in high schools, middle schools, about financial literacy. Let's talk about why that is so important, for teenagers.
Yeah, so I have a teenager. It can be a little bit of a challenge. Certainly banking has changed a lot since I was a kid. My dad was a banker. In a lot of ways, I was very lucky because, I did have that resource, and someone who could teach me that. On the board for Helping Hands for Youth, that's a big part of what we want to teach. We want to teach, well, we're actually extending now into elementary schools and trying to get that message out. But certainly middle school and then high school kids is understanding that you're responsible for your financial situation. And if you don't have kind of a background knowledge, if you don't know how to open up a bank account, if you don't know how to budget properly, you can get in trouble. So I think, that's obviously a very important mission of the bank, and certainly a focus of some of the not-for-profit boards that I've been on, and just how critically important it is having that base of knowledge and being able to apply it to your life after you leave home.
I'll also throw out that I talked a bit about how emotional money is, and we'll just layer in a quick comment on mental health and mental stability. The lack of resource causes stress. The lack of understanding causes stress. That stress is not healthy. It's not healthy when the answers are readily available. And so to develop a very healthy emotional experience with money will also lean into a trajectory of stronger mental health, because money is a stressor. The lack of money is a stressor. The lack of understanding about money is a stressor. And so starting young and alleviating that one, there are plenty of other stressors in the world. Don't let that one be one of them.
And just getting practical, you guys are talking about this, but you also have done some things in the community. I have a good friend, Lawrence Vandenberg, and I know he has a summer program and those guys. Can you talk about why that was so important to you all to connect with Lawrence and what he's doing with financial literacy for teenagers?
Lawrence is doing a great work. And Lawrence is very faith forward, and he understands we're all Christ's child. And we all sometimes need a helping hand to get out there and see things in the world that we haven't seen yet. And through the power of observation, you can change someone's perspective. You can change someone's point of view. You need to see it, touch it, feel it, heal it, discover it in order to know that it could be available to you or attainable. And that's what Lawrence's summer program means to me, that he's found these incredible young scholars who are interested in more than what they already know. And so we feel fortunate that Lawrence invited us in. I mean, incredibly fortunate that Lawrence invited us in. And we also felt like trying to describe what we did for a living was pretty difficult. So when we bring the kids in, we play Shark Tank. We create simulated businesses, and we talk through what a business might look like and the value of a business and a business differentiator. And right behind me here is a award-winning Shark Tank mentor, Mr. Matt Gerhardt. He's been awesome. How do you
Thank
have
you,
you
Jessica.
enjoyed the summers with Lawrence?
You knew I was going to go there. The thing I want to add about Lawrence, he makes it fun for the kids. I mean, it's kind of a whirlwind tour of various businesses, being able to connect with business leaders, community leaders. But I sense, certainly from the kids that I worked with on my team, they love it. It is just a lot of fun. They're engaged. They're using their brains to come up with ideas, and it's great to see. I really enjoy it, and I won last time, so that's
Okay.
good.
You ready for TV? You ready for our time? As you come around the corner, with both of you, we both can found on this one. When you think about legacy, what do you hope people say about the way you lead?
I hope people remember me for my curiosity. I hope people remember the inclusivity. I hope people taught me something and I reciprocated and taught them too. I hope there's an elevation through education and being in the same room, right? There's a power of positive impact. And I think of myself as being able to be more successful in positive impact the more curious I am. And for me, I hope that curiosity sticks around. I hope someone positively remembered.
For me, I've always found that the best leaders are ones that lead by example. Mm-hmm. So I like to think that, I have a positive impact on people. I think I'm definitely an optimistic kind of person. And, I hope as a legacy, people remember that, He always had a good story. He always had a positive message. He was fun to work with, really good joke teller, but just an overall good person, one who was very committed, trying to help his community in any way that he could.
That's good. And I want to, as we wrap up, I want to thank you all for the bank for being in the community and not just being talking about it, but really engaged, really involved in the community. And that's a nice building you guys have there. I've been there. It's not just any storefront bank. It's just the real deal, and people can feel good about coming in there. And the service and one thing I just talking to different people about this whole service thing is just treating people with empathy. When people walk in there, they can feel like they are special, and that's what we kind of lose in this country, this disconnect, back in the day, you would know your banker, you would go to the bank, now everything's online and you're trying to get through to talk to somebody, you might as well forget it, but just the fact that you can walk in somewhere, then, and I love what you said about before you guys got started, you went and talked to the community, getting to know the community. What are their needs? Sometimes we try to force them, we try to tell people what they need. But it's different. It's different the way you guys approach that.
Thank you. I think that you can feel a focus. If someone is focused on you, if they're distracted, if they're fiddling and fidgeting and looking over your shoulder. And I want 100% of our teammates to be focused. So when you're sitting at the table with them and you're engaged in a conversation, you are the most important person in the room. And we talk a lot about what it means to provide our attention to the community. And I think that's just through extreme focus. And thank you for commenting on it because it means a lot.
Audience, today we were blessed to have a powerful conversation with Matt and Jennifer from First Merchant Bank. Today we learned that prosperity isn't just about numbers on a balance sheet. It's about relationships, stewardship, service, and helping others win. Whether you're building a business, leading a family, or serving your community, prosperity starts with trust and long-term vision. So thank you, Matt and Jennifer and First Merchant Bank for modeling what it looks like to truly help people prosper financially and beyond. For today's episode, encourage you, make sure you subscribe, share this episode with a young professional, business leader, and continue building your legacy the right way.
Business owners should consider leveraging their working capital assets, like accounts receivable and inventory, with a line of credit in order to maximize cash flow opportunities. A business line of credit gives you flexible access to funds when you need them most, and you only pay for what you use. It's a smart way to unlock liquidity, manage seasonal swings, and stay ready for unexpected expenses or new growth opportunities. This Helping You Prosper tip is brought to you by First Merchants Bank, member FDIC.
Thank you for spending time with us here on Be a Baller podcast. Remember, legacy isn't built by accident. It's built through daily choices, faithful obedience, and intentional impact. If today's conversation encouraged you, challenged you, or spoke to your heart, share this episode with a friend, a teammate, a leader, or someone who's ready to live with purpose. That simple act of sharing helps us grow the movement and spread legacy-minded living. We want to invite you to join the legacy movement. This is more than a podcast. It's a call to action. And one of the best ways to go deeper is by grabbing your copy of the book, Living a Legacy. It's a powerful resource designed to help you apply what you're hearing and start building something that truly lasts. Until next time, keep showing up, keep pouring into others, and keep building a legacy worth following. Thanks for listening, and remember, be a baller, live on purpose, leave a legacy.